we spoke about Genesis 1. The love of God is all over Genesis 1. I told you I was going to speak on Genesis 1, 2, and 3 over a 3-week period and then finish up with a conclusion. But there's so much love that God has for us that's displayed initially in creation and prior that I hope at some point during that talk you were a little overwhelmed with how much God loves you. Now we go on to Genesis 2, and we come to the place where the man and the woman is in Eden. And this should be interesting. So let's just go right to the scriptures. Genesis 2, 19, 20. It says, so from the ground. John, are you ready? John. You got a shofar? Okay. So from the ground, you do now. So from the ground, you ready? Yes, sir. And you're a soldier. No, hang on. So from the ground, God formed every wild animal and every bird that flies in the air, and he brought them to the person to see what he would call them. Whatever the person would call each living creature, that was to be its name. So the person gave names to all the livestock, to the birds in the air, and to every wild animal, but for Adam there was not found a companion suitable for helping him. I don't know exactly what he called them, but maybe it went something like this. Elephant, right? Do you have something that can clean these? Somehow this I can't see. And then, of course, he would see. And then he would call it monkey, and then Darwin would say that's where we came from. And then maybe he would kind of be a little pensive and go, you could be my zebra. It don't matter if you're black or white, right? Okay, so he names the animals, and he's having a great time. And obviously, he's the only one made in God's image. I know some of you are very close to your animals, but guys, you know, when you're going through a struggle, they could give you some companionship, but they cannot communicate with you. They weren't made to communicate. They weren't made to have cognitive reasoning. They can't do any. I'll prove it to you. You bring your animal in here, and you call it, and I'll hold the stake and watch where the dog goes. But do you see how sad Adam appeared? I mean, maybe you never did see that. But look what it says. He's seeing these animals, and each animal had a mate. They were male and female, and they were together. And they were stronger together. The sum was greater than the parts, which is the way it should be. If you are 4 and your wife is 4 together, you should be more than 8. That was God's ideology behind that whole thing. And so he's sitting there and he's seeing all these animals that had a mate. And then he realizes, I don't have anybody. And he looks sad to me. Does he look sad to you? Some of you are saying, I wouldn't be sad, but nevertheless, he's having feelings of being alone. And I think, you know, Adam obviously noticed. And, you know, they were similar. The mates were similar but different. And so God would prepare Adam, I think, to have a helpmate. I think he's preparing him. But in actuality, God did not intend for Adam to be alone from before creation. Look at 2 verses before. 2:18 of Genesis, it says, Adonai God said, it isn't good that the person should be alone. So he made that determination. So I know there's a lot of opinions out there. Everybody's entitled. But I usually don't have one. A lot of people ask me, what do you think? And if you've ever asked me that, you'll notice I never answer it because it doesn't matter what I think as far as I'm concerned. I'm sola scriptura. I'm like, what does God think? God always wins. He's got to be the ultimate ruler. He's sovereign. So according to God, I'm not saying your opinion, my opinion. According to God, it wasn't good for Adam to be alone. And he says, because of this, I will make for him a companion that's suitable for what? Helping. Yes, a helpmate, okay? So now let's look at these words real quickly so we don't misconstrue what God is saying. The word alone, we're looking in the Hebrew, right? Of course, because the Old Testament is written in Hebrew. It's pronounced bad, but it's bad. It's bad, which means it's not good for him to be by himself. Okay, by himself. And then companion is an etzer. It's a helper or a sucker. Now, I don't need any punchline for that, do I? No, I don't. Do I, ladies? No. No, but actually it's a sukkor, and it means an assistant. It means a helpmate. It's not a sucker, even though some of you read it that way and still say, I don't care what it means, Rabbi, I'm a sucker. Look at continuing on. Look at Genesis 2:21 through 22. It says, then God caused a deep sleep to fall upon the person. Okay, obviously he's giving him his anesthesia, the good doctor, the great physician. While he was sleeping, he took one of his ribs and closed up the place from which he took it with flesh. The rib which Adonai God had taken from the person, he made a woman person, and he brought her to the man person. I've had like 10 or 12 different surgeries. I would love this kind of recovery, you know? And what's the best part is nobody even asked me for an insurance card, right? Look at this. It's a freebie. So, what do we see here, guys, according to God's word, is that we see that man is incomplete until he is married, and then he's finished. I didn't mean it that way. What I meant to say is that love is blind, but marriage is an eye-opener. Some of you really need to lighten up. You really desperately do. Not exactly, but what we do see from here, and I share this at every wedding ceremony, and I don't do too many. Maybe I've done about 14, 13, something like that in all my years. What we do see is that the woman was taken not from Adam's head, because God is saying you're not to dominate her. And the woman was not taken from Adam's feet, because God is saying you're not to trodden down upon her. But the woman was taken from under his arm to be protected and near his heart to be loved. Yeah, that was the idea. That's the idea. Now, continuing on to the next verse, it says, the man person said, at last. He was very excited. There's an exclamation point in the Bible here. He was so excited. I don't know how long he was with the animals. Nobody knows. Most of us think it was for a day, but it was a lot longer. He was alone. It wasn't instantaneous. Otherwise, if it was instantaneous, you have to read the Bible and you have to put yourself in it. Look, don't take this the wrong way, but some of you were raised so fundamental that all you did was memorize. And in the midst of memorizing the scripture, you knew the word of the Lord, but you never got to know the Lord of the word. And it doesn't have lasting power when you don't know the Lord of the word. It doesn't. Scripture is not enough. You have to know the author of Scripture. And you have to know what he's saying. You would know, obviously, that it wasn't just a day. If you read the Bible and you say, at last, he's like, finally. Hallelujah. And he says, this is bone from my bones and flesh from my flesh. She is to be called woman because she was taken out of man. This speaks of oneness. God could have formed her from the dust like he formed Adam, but he was trying to create some kind of oneness for this couple. This terminology, bone from my bone and flesh from my flesh, is used elsewhere in scriptures. It's not just particularly used here and nowhere else. You'll see it in Genesis 29:14 when Jacob goes to meet his uncle Laban, right? And Laban meets him and goes, bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. Family, it talks about the fact that we're blood relatives. And the point is that marriage is supposed to create the closest of all human relationships, bar none. That was the idea behind it. In other words, two are better than one, right? Solomon, even though he was jaded in Ecclesiastes, he said something priceless. He said, two are better than one. Because if one falls and they're alone, You know, unless your dog is Lassie, you're not getting up. If one goes to bed and they're cold, how are they going to stay warm? If one fights alone, their back's exposed. Solomon says 2 are better than 1, but he says a cord of 3. And when you take 2 strands and put them together and you put the 3rd strand, it's exponential. And that 3rd strand, of course, is the Lord. Now, let me explain something that I saw here many years ago, and it's kind of neat. If you don't think so, it's okay. You know, you have a right to be wrong, but I really think it's, let me show you the word man in the Hebrew, okay? It's esh, and there's 3 letters. If you look, the first one is aleph, and the second one is yud, and the third is shin. So you have aleph, yud, and shin. That forms the word man in the Hebrew. Look at the word woman. It's isha, and it's aleph, shin, and hey, 3 different letters. Now let me put them for you side by side, okay? So man, we have aleph, yud, shin. Woman, we have aleph, shin, hey. And the reason why I highlighted the yud and hey, because the yud and the hey form the letters for God. Yud, hey, vav, hey, God. So if you remove the yud from man, and if you remove the hey from woman, if you remove the God from them, look what you have left. Just the aleph and the shin. Your relationship will burn up. No hope. I don't care what anybody tells me. They tell me, oh, there's secular relationships and there's no God in their life. I'm not buying it. Not only am I not buying it, but wait till something catastrophic happens. It's not a matter of if, it's when and how bad. And nobody's going to give me the exception. Yes, you might know of a couple that are secular, and you might know of plenty of Christian couples that are divorced. But guess what? I'm going with God on this. Not the one couple you know. I'm not going to go with the exception. I'm going to go with the rule. In other words, you can tell me about a woman who's 98 years old and who smoked and who drank, because I'll tell you she has phenomenal genetics. That's the exception. I'm not going to go with the exception. I'm going to go with the rule. And I'm saying that when you remove God, all you're left with is a fire. Let's go to the next verse, Genesis 2:24. It says, this is why a man is to leave his father, based on this oneness, and mother. And I got news for you. Some of you men and some of you women need to leave your mother and father, for God's sakes. Okay? And stick with his wife, and they are to be one flesh. I just want you to know, with the words in verse 24, God is instituting monogamous marriage. One man to one woman. I can't refute that everybody's entitled to their opinion. There's a whole different community out there now that have their own opinions. Sadly enough, our churches, our mainline Christian denominations in the United States are ordaining homosexuals. And some people might say, well, that's not our church. Guess what? If you are part of that denomination, you are rooted into that denomination, and you are going to bear fruit according to that root. If the MJAA decides to do that, I'm done with the MJAA. I love them, but then we're done. According to God, he instituted monogamous marriage, and like all divine institutions, it was established for man's good and cannot be violated. If it wasn't established for man's good, then God's not good, then we got no business being here. Just for the record, in ancient Israel, sons did not move away from their parents when they got married. They left their parents in the sense of putting their wives' welfare before their parents' welfare. It didn't mean they weren't to take care of their parents. Not at all. Of course you have the 5th commandment, honor your mother and your father. In fact, they built a room onto their parents' house where they lived. And that is not too far to understand, because Yeshua said, I go to prepare a place for you. In my Father's house are many rooms for you. And if it's not true, I wouldn't say it, but it is true. So I'll come back and take you to be where I am. It's Jewish understanding. Without a Hebrew understanding, it's very hard to really understand what Yeshua is really trying to convey. You just got to realize that. I mean, the man spoke in the Hebrew language. If you don't understand Hebrew, how are you going to understand what he said? I don't break down these words to look smart. I don't know. I'm not, fluent. I'm not a Hebrew scholar. But they're words that God tells me to look up to share with you. So, he didn't leave his parents. He was to stick with his wife, and they would have become one flesh. Look at the word stick, if you will. Dobach, it means to cling to stay close to, and to stick with. Now, it's sad that most people today think it's stuck, not stick. Right? Sadly enough, some people see marriage as a 3-ring circus. The engagement ring, the wedding ring, and the suffering. But they were called to be one flesh. Look at the word, one flesh. It's bosa echad. You know the word echad. Shema Yisrael. Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai echad. It's not just the watchword of Israel. It was the most important commandment that Yeshua shared with us believers. He said there's only one God. There's a plurality. There's a unified plurality or a plural unity. God can show up as the angel of the Lord. He could show up as the commander of the Lord's army. He could show up as the burning bush. He could show up as the column of fire. He could show up as Yeshua. Because he's God. But there's only one God. And we were supposed to be one flesh. There's a plurality. There's an individuality. Bernadette is Bernadette. I'm Greg. But there's supposed to be some kind of plurality, if you will. Some kind of oneness. Basa echad. Some kind of harmony. Calls us to be in sync with one another and in sync with the Lord. So the marriage bond then illustrates the relationship that exists between Messiah Yeshua and his body, a.k.a. the church, namely us. It also has the benefit of being somewhat of a crucible. I know that kids don't see this going in. The reason why I do very few marriages is because, first of all, I have to know the people really well. I'm not a gun for hire. Secondly, you got to go through a lot of premarital counseling. And third, that when people come to me and say, Rabbi, we're getting married this date, can we get together with you? I'm like, but you already decided to get married. We're just going to go through the motions, right? And you're going to yes me. Most young people and even older people in the faith don't understand that marriage is a crucible. What do I mean by that? It's the greatest thing we have to teach us how to die to ourselves, which is what we're called to do as a believer. Yeshua says, deny yourself. That doesn't mean self-denial. That doesn't mean giving up chocolate. That means you have no inalienable rights. The problem with most relationships is one is dying to themselves while the other one is living to themselves. And that's just not fun, is it? When one person is dying and the other one is living. It's not fun when one person is giving and the other one is taking. And that just lasts so long, right? And then at some point, the flip out. Then like, what's going on? I thought you were happy. It helps us to become believers. That was the idea. That's why it's no good to be alone. Anybody can get along with themselves, right? I mean, if you're arguing with yourself, you're either a schizophrenic or mentally ill. No? I mean, I don't have a hard time getting along with myself. When I'm alone, it's easy. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Anybody? Or am I the only one? You're all kind of in agreement with me? It's not great being alone. We need each other, but it's easy, right? When you have your me time. Isn't that being alone? And why do you want me time so bad? Because it's easy. It's easy. It's fun. But look at Ephesians 5 for a minute. Verses 22 to 23. It says, wives should submit to their husbands. This is a tough couple of scriptures to handle for the modern woman. But the reason why it's tough is because most people don't have any idea what this means. I don't mean to say that derogatory. Some of you will believe is a lot longer than I am. But I guarantee after I share this with you, you're going to believe, oh, is that what it means? Wives should submit to their husbands as they do to the Lord, because the husband is the head of the wife, just as the Messiah, as head of the Messianic community, is himself the one who keeps the body safe. There was a story about a young man who goes to see his pastor. He's getting married in a few days. And he goes to his office. He said, Pastor, if I gave you $100, would you leave out the love and honor and obey part? And the pastor thinks. He goes, yeah, I think I can do that. So a couple of days go by, and they're on the altar, and the pastor says to him, do you promise to prostrate yourself before her, worship her, and bring her back breakfast in bed every morning? The guy can't believe it. He's dumbfounded, but he goes, yes. And he leans into the pastor and he goes, I thought we had a deal. The pastor leans in and says, your bride made me a better offer. You women, always one step ahead of us. The guys think they're smart, right? But you don't tell them, but they're not so smart, are they? You're way ahead of them, aren't you? Yeah. The husband is the head, but the wife is the neck. And the neck always turns the head. Seriously, this is really important because Ephesians is a letter that Paul wrote to a group of believers. He stayed years in Ephesus. It wasn't a quickie like in Thessalonica. He was there for 3 Shabbats. He spent a ton of time. We have a ton of theology in Ephesians, and Ephesians is all about the body of Messiah. It talks about oneness. So, of course, we're going to find marriage, the marriage covenant, in this letter. So it's crucial that we understand this. This is basic doctrine, okay? First of all, the principle of authority and submission. Authority and submission is so basic in God's economy that it's even found in the Godhead. There are 2 pillars in God's economy. Whenever we walk in the flesh, we hate those 2 pillars. Well, we like one of those pillars. We love authority. We love being a boss. We love giving orders. But we don't like submitting to a boss in the natural. In the spiritual, if we're all spirit, we love it. We love submitting. But most of us don't walk in the Spirit, if not all of us, all the time, right? It's obvious. But this is God's basic system, 2 pillars, authority and submission to that authority. Look at 1 Corinthians 11:3. It's unbelievable. It says, but I want you to understand that the head of every man is the Messiah. That means every man, every believing man, should submit to Yeshua. And the head of every wife is a husband, and the head of the Messiah is God. Guys, there must be a head, okay? God ordained that the place of headship is given to the man, indicating by the man being created first. Now, Bernadette told me this week when I shared this with her, and I'm going to quote her, and tell me if I'm missing the quote. She said, no manufacturer in the history of manufacturing designs a second model worse than the first. It's always more improved. Is that the quote? Just want to not misquote you. But isn't it wild that Yeshua himself, the Messiah, the Savior of the world, the prophesied King of Israel, submits to the Father? Where do we get off not submitting? He said, I don't do anything on my own. I only do what the Father tells me. He was in full submission all the time. What does submission mean? Some people think it means I'm the boss, you work for me, sweet pea, and what I tell you, that's the way it works. A typical feminist thinks just the opposite. It went all haywire because Satan got into it, okay? Originally, if I'm an attorney with a certain educational background and a certain set of skills, and Bernadette's an attorney with that same education, the same set of skills, we should have equal pay. That's how it started. But then it turned into, I don't need a man. It starts off at a good place. But usually when you take God out of it, it doesn't end well. And that's where you find it now. The feminist movement, the modern day feminist movement, is not ordained of God. Okay? However, submission in the New Testament is a Greek military term, and it means to arrange troop divisions in a military fashion under the command of a leader. However, this word in the Greek, submission, or to subject oneself, is a non-military term. And the non-military use of that term in the Greek means a voluntary attitude. Did anybody hear what I said? Voluntary attitude. Very important, because most people that see this say, no. When you said I do, you do what I tell you now. In reality, it's a voluntary attitude of giving in, of cooperating, of assuming responsibility, and carrying a burden. You follow? Do you hear the difference in that word? A voluntary attitude. Not obligatory. Some people just do it because they're like trying to be a good Christian woman, and they're miserable. A voluntary attitude. Submission never implies inferiority. You hear me? Submission never, ever, ever implies inferiority. The Lord Yeshua was submissive to the Father, but in no way was he inferior to him. In fact, in many ways, I have seen in my 25 years of ministry, believing wives far more superior than their husbands. Superior in devotedness, superior in humility, superior in sympathy, superior in diligence, and superior in heroic endurance. In submission, though, the wife is submitting to the Lord's authority, which in and of itself should remove any attitude of reluctance or rebellion. History abounds, guys, abounds with illustrations of chaos resulting from disobedience to God's pattern. By usurping the place of leadership and acting for her husband, Eve introduced sin into the human race. You don't see her or Adam's name in Hebrews 11, do you? I've seen women who have left their God-appointed sphere and wreck a local church. Totally wreck it. And just for the record, I want you to know this, and know this well. Beth Yeshua is a Jezebel-free zone. God does not tolerate the spirit of Jezebel here, not from a woman or a man. A man can have that spirit too. He beautifully and wonderfully and preciously removes the Jezebels. So if you are, I would recommend that you remove the spirit before God removes you. It doesn't work here. God is the head of this place. This is Beth Yeshua. It's his house. It's not my house. It's not your house. It's his. And we will do things according to how he wants them done. And when you start fasting on a regular basis and praying and crying out at the wall for God's direction for this place, then you can come talk to me about what he said. But there's no suggestion box. Ephesians 5, 22, 23, 24, it looks very bigoted, no? I mean, Paul has been accused of everything from a bigoted bachelor to a male chauvinist pig to a downright woman hater. Especially when people read these scriptures and they have no idea what they're reading. If the foregoing instructions for wives to submit stood alone, if there were no corresponding instructions to husbands, then I would say yes, he seems that way. I would agree with you. The presentation would be one-sided, if not unfair. But if you read one more verse, and I would recommend you to read the whole chapter, obviously, the whole letter for that matter. But if you just read one more verse in Ephesians 5:25, just one more verse. As for husbands, you know, that's the problem with context, guys. It's the number one faux pas in trying to understand what God is saying. It is the number one problem we have. Scripture has to prove Scripture. You've got to take care of any apparent discrepancies. There's always a near and far principle or a law of double reference when it comes to prophecy. You must take things literal until you see something like simile or metaphor or symbolism. But the number one issue that you will always have is context. Just like if you stop right there and you don't study the word, then it's woman, I'm the head. But if you don't go to the next verse, if you don't read the letter, you cannot understand a letter taking one sentence in the letter. It is absolutely, literarily impossible. Impossible. You're doing yourself an injustice. You're doing other people an injustice. You're doing the kingdom an injustice. So we look at the next verse, and when I'm here, I can't read the whole letter. With you, it will take too long. I'm encouraging you to read the whole letter. But it says, as for husbands, like the husband's walking away. He's going, come on, woman, follow me. As for husbands, like what? I thought I could just be the leader. What I say goes. As Bernadette would say, well, you better say Bernadette because I'm going. And guys, first of all, let me say to you on a very serious note, this is very, very hard stuff. If being a believer wasn't so challenging, we'd have a lot more believers. Just because you put your butt in a pew doesn't make you a believer any more than if you stand in your garage, it makes you an automobile. When we say we have 500 members, that doesn't mean nothing. That means your church has 500 members. How many of those members are born again and members of the kingdom? Nobody knows, but I can tell you that the numbers are far off. Because what Yeshua is asking us to do is to die to ourselves progressively. You're not going to die instantaneously. Nobody can do that. This is a progressive death from glory to glory. The more glory shines, the more flesh burns. It takes a whole lifetime to go through the process and be in the kiln of sanctification. It is not done overnight. And nobody's going to tell me, and nobody should tell you, if you are in that process, don't let anybody, not your friend, not your mother, not your father, not the enemy, not demons, not even yourself, that you're not changing. Because I got news for you. I might have a lot of change to go, but I'm changing. I know that about me because I know who I used to be. In fact, it's a great change. There are people in my old neighborhood who go, you're the same. There's people in my own family that I'll be good for 2 weeks and mess up, and they'll go, you haven't changed one bit. I have changed because I used to be like this every day. I just went 14 days without being like this. Don't you tell me that. I'm not accepting it. Don't you be the voice of the enemy. I'm working hard here. It's not easy for me to change. For some of you, you feel like it's impossible, right? You're 50, 60, 70. You're like, I've been like this for 70 years. You're changing. It might be slow, but you're changing. Who is anybody to tell me how fast I should change? Who died and left you, boss? There's only one who sits on the throne. If God tells me, hey, kid, you need to change faster, I receive it, Father, not from you. And don't receive it from me. If you notice, I stay out of that realm. I tell you what the Word of God says. You do with it what you want. You're big boys and big girls. I have no right. I have no authority in your life to tell you how to raise your kids, how to treat your wife, how to treat your husband. That's not me. Okay? That's the Lord. And everything I'm preaching to you, I'm trying to do in my own household. It's not like I have it down and I'm here telling you, I have it down, guys. Everything's perfect at home. This is how you need to emulate me. Paul said, imitate me as I imitate Yeshua. And he was a wonderful imitator of Yeshua. But let's be honest, Paul wasn't married. Was he? No. He didn't have that challenge. It's a great challenge. It's a beautiful thing. When it's good, it's magnificent. When it's bad, it's horrific. And you go from like that, right? It's just, right? I mean, does anybody know what I'm talking about? You all look like deer in the headlights. Are you married? I mean, I know a woman who buried 3 husbands, and 2 of them were just napping. I gotta just make you laugh because otherwise you're like, is that ambulance coming? Because a few of you need to be shocked. No. But then you get that idiot Dolby video, and you're like, oh, look how funny it is. She's falling. And we're having pearls, wisdom, from the mouth of God, from the very throne. There used to be shepherds in the pulpit taking care of the sheep. Now we got clowns entertaining the goats. And the more entertaining they are, the more goats show up. And we fall for that nonsense, even men of God, because how badly we want to be liked. Hey, we had 16 more people in Sunday school. I could give a crap. As for husbands, love your wives, just as. That's why it's a higher calling. Just as Messiah loved the Messianic community or the church, indeed gave himself up on its behalf. Look at this word, guys. I think this is astounding. Again, I find these little things and I think, wow, God, thanks for showing it to me. I hope you see it as well. Look at the word love. Obviously, you know this word. It's used in a lot of ministries. Agapeo, but there's two meanings: to be fond of and to love dearly, and the second meaning is to be well pleased with and contented with. They're two different subjects. To be fond of and to love dearly is the woman. To be well pleased with and contented with is the marriage. That's what he's asking for us. He's asking us to love dearly our wives and to be totally content with our marriage, not to look past it. I don't care who you are. You're not going to tell me that a moment didn't go by in your marriage where you thought, I don't feel totally content. This is challenging, but this is what God is asking of us. And I think there's a way to go about it that makes it easier. No wife minds submitting to a man if he loves her like the Messiah loves us. I mean, let me ask you a question. If Yeshua was married, what kind of husband do you think he'd be? Most men think about providing financially and protecting physically. I don't know what, some of you guys, it's like, look, I was a physical person. I bounced most of my life. I did a lot of security, but when's the last time your wife was punched in the face with you when you were around? When's the last time somebody attacked her when you were there? How many times has that happened in your life? You're training for that? Or you're like, listen, I put a roof over her head. I'm a good provider. When I hear somebody say that at a funeral like he was such a good provider, and they stop there, I'm thinking, oh, golly, that it? I'm a good provider, I protect her, and I never lie to her face. Where's the spiritual leadership? I hate when I see prayer teams come in and they're all female. The believing woman is looking for a spiritual leader. Yeshua was a spiritual leader. Where's the call to prayer? Sweetheart, let's pray. I'm not in the mood, sweetheart, please. Let's pray. Where's the washing of the word? Where's the mental and emotional support and stability? And if all else fails, Otis Redding, right? Megan boy, no? What'd he say? Squeeze her! Don't tease her! Never leave her! You got to try a little tenderness! Guys, I want you to know that Bernadette and I, our life is, we've exposed ourselves to you on a regular basis. No, we have, and my mom used to say to me when I was a little boy, she'd say, Greg, don't tell me everything. And I'd be like, but Mom, you're my mom. I have nothing to hide. And she would say, no, there's just some things, and I never really got the memo, This week I was so excited about this, and then last night we had a humdinger. Bernadette and I got into it. I pretty much did everything. I thought I did everything right, And I just want you to know that we have a secret. We have an absolute secret for how a marriage could last beautifully. Would anybody like to know? Oh, you're really eager now. Now you admit it, huh? Before it was like, no, we're fine. Okay, this is the secret. This is what I found in, 1989. I met the Lord and haven't really walked away at all. So what's that, 28 years, sweetie? 29 years coming up on. 2 times a week, we go to a nice restaurant, have a little wine and some good food. She goes on Tuesdays, I go on Thursdays. And it's been working out pretty well. We get together on Shabbat and compare notes. Look, we were getting along beautifully, a couple of weeks just gorgeously, and we had this blow up yesterday. And I think it was just God trying to tell me, look, it's not easy. No matter what you teach, son, no matter what I say, it's still not easy. It's not easy. It's not fun a lot, right? Dying to yourself, it's not fun. It's not fun giving in and compromising. It's just not. It hurts. Nobody likes to, present their body a living sacrifice. You burn your finger on the stove and but throwing yourself on the fire, it's hard, guys. But we're believers. And although it might not be fun and easy, we come to the conclusion that it's good and it's right. And it's just not fair for one person to be giving and the other person to be taking. It's just brutal. It's just brutal. It is a beautiful thing. I mean, when I have to run up and get tested and I don't know what it's going to be, I always say to Bernadette, stay with the kids. She goes, no, I'm going to be up there with you. We went to a funeral recently, and Bernadette said, I'm going to eulogize you. I'm not going to let anybody eulogize you. First I thought, something I don't know? Like, seems like you got this thing pretty well planned out. But when it's beautiful, you know what I mean, right? When it's beautiful and somehow everything just went beautiful that day, it was just beautiful. And there was no glitches, and you're sitting at the table with your family, and you sit back and just, you get this feeling of just incredible thankfulness, and you feel so complete, you know what I mean? And then you wake up, and realize it's a dream. Come on, honey, you got to get to work. Look, I think Mickey Rooney said the funniest thing about marriage. He was married 8 times, and he said, my recommendation is get married really, really, really early in the morning. This way, if it doesn't work out, you don't ruin your whole day. If we look at it as a team, I know sometimes it becomes, especially with kids, right? It becomes almost a business. You pick up this one, you pick up that one, then the kids are gone. You look at each other like, what are we supposed to do now? We've been working together, raising the kids, now what? And we lost ourselves with the kids, which is a mistake. For some of you young people, it's a mistake. Of course, you want to be there for your kids, but you have to have your time with the Lord, you have to have your time with each other, and you have to have the time with family. It's all separate, and never the twain shall meet. I think it's very important. I remember when Bernadette and I first moved to Florida, and we had Jeremy. For 2 years, we didn't go out. We didn't know anybody, and we wouldn't trust anybody with Jeremy. Anybody first-time parent, you know what I'm talking about? And you're holding the kid, and somebody comes up to you, and they go, "Oh, can I hold them?" And you want to see, their papers when they've been inoculated, right? So they come up to you, and they go, "Can you hold them?" And you're like, "No, Mom." You know what I mean? But we wouldn't let anybody near Jeremy. Literally, they had to have like a mask. It was ridiculous. And then with Shayna, family could hold her, and some close friends. With Max, not such close friends. And with Lily, we were looking for strangers just to watch her for days at a time. That's what happens. Some of you have 7 kids, you don't even know where 2 of them are. Most of the time, right? You don't even notice. But I remember it was with me, it was spiritual prowess. There was some believing arrogance. I would tell people, we don't need to go out. We're fine. We're fine. But one day, somebody came over to watch Jeremy. And I tell you, God's honest truth. We were driving down the road. We lived about a half a block from the beach in Ormond. And the Lord said, the Holy Spirit said, look over. And I looked over at Bernadette, and what was superimposed on her was her 18-year-old look. When she was 18, when I first met her, and what God was showing me is, look at her countenance. She's holding that kid every day. She had carpal tunnel syndrome from holding him all the time. I was going to bring him to the March of Dimes. He didn't walk till he was 16 months. He didn't walk because he didn't need to. He was always being held. One day we put him down. It was like, run, Forrest. He just ran, remember? One day, people said, something's wrong with him. Take him to the March of Dimes. Remember? So I called Daytona Beach. I had an appointment with the March of Dimes. She put him down one day, and he ran. We don't need the appointment anymore. He's running. He's running now. But we had such a wonderful time together because we lost ourselves in Jer. And, you know, the kids will leave. They'll leave, hopefully. You can only hope and pray. All right, let's. What do you say we finish this up? Okay. You've had enough fun for one day. Let's go to that last verse in Genesis 2:25. It says, "They were both naked, the man and his wife, and they were unashamed." And I just got to tell you, naked and unashamed beats naked and afraid any day of the week. I hear there's a show on TV. I don't know. They just drop them on an island naked, and then they're just afraid. Is that what the show's about? Is that basically the show? I've never seen it. I'm not saying that it's ungodly. I'm just saying they drop them off on an island and they take their clothes and then that's the show? So what do they got to learn how to what? Cook naked? Is that what they're doing? Is there more to it? That's pretty much it? Oh, how to survive without clothes? Like, these clothes don't help you survive. They're going to die of starvation, not die of nakedness. Believe me, I've been naked before. It never was a death sentence. You're really producing some, I'm so sorry we got rid of cable 25 years ago. Look what we're missing. Man's naked, he's surviving. Get him a pair of pants. They were both naked, the man and his wife, and they were unashamed. Guys, this will bring a tear to a glass eye. I mean, all right. That's not even funny. You know what I don't understand? I told like 12 really good jokes, and you were like this. I'm talking something serious, and you're hysterical. What just happened? Go ahead, laugh. Laugh at the rabbi. Oh, he's concluding. Stupid rabbi's going to he's going to throw a big left hook for his finish. Was there a Freudian slip? All right, let me try to get to the point, and maybe something will come out of this. Maybe not, but so far it's been pretty good, right? All right. You're going to love Genesis 3 next week. It's really, it's not really funny. There's no jokes to be had. It's the temptation, the fall, but you'll see what God does is astounding. The amount of his love. And the reason why God gave us marriage is because he loves us. He does. And if God says it's good, then I'm going to agree with him. Even at times that I don't, in my naturalness, I might be struggling with the family, struggling with an issue. I feel overwhelmed. Let me tell you a little secret, wives. Your husbands, even though they act tough, when it comes to the family, they're overwhelmed all the time. It's not that they're afraid, they're overwhelmed. Nobody taught us how to do this. Nobody taught us. We had kids and we came home, they didn't have instructions. And we didn't know what we were supposed to do. Nobody really showed us. And we're still trying to figure it out. But some of us are doing the best we can. Just the best we can. They were both naked, the man and his wife, and they were unashamed. Look at the word naked. I just don't want you to, or as we say it, how do we say it down here in the South? Naked. Naked. Do you say tired or tad? Tad. Anyway, arome, bare. Nothing, right? But they were unashamed. Look at this word. It means no feelings of guilt. Now, look, the lust of the eye is at an all-time high. The eye is so lustful, not just for women and men, but for things, for cars. It's like you see little kids. Oh, it's crazy. The material God that we serve gets way too much worship. But can you imagine they're naked? If somebody came in here naked, you'd have a different reaction. Come on, stop shaking your head, ma'am. Okay? You'd have a different reaction. Stop playing Sister Betril. Okay? Everybody has temptations. Everybody has lusts. Just stop. Stop making believe. Because we made believe so much in the church and we didn't talk about it, so now pornography is an all-time high. Porn addiction, all-time high. Okay? Because Satan will laugh if you put up a front. And when you put up a front and you act like a hypocrite, you give him an open door into your heart. No feelings of guilt. This pictures, guys, the couple's innocence. And they delight in this innocence because they knew no good nor no evil. You follow? They didn't eat from the tree yet. That's next week. They knew nothing except God. Can you imagine? That's what it's going to be like when he comes back at the end of the millennium, when he restores the heavens and the earth. There will be no sickness. There will be no sorrow. There will be no sadness. There will be no suffering because there will be no sin. We're going to be in this condition. No feeling of guilt, no knowledge of good or evil. We will only know God. But nevertheless, they were naked, but they were covered. They were covered in innocence because they were covered in God. Wow. I can't wait. I can't wait till I don't have to fight temptation. I can't wait till I don't have to fight emotional instability. I can't wait till I don't have to fight the enemy in my mind. I can't wait till I don't have feelings of guilt because I didn't handle them right. And they look at me like, Dad, you're off, and they don't know I'm in the room crying and saying, God, I'm a bum. How do you use me? I said to Bernadette after last night, how the heck am I going to go in tomorrow and speak? How? I'm so imperfect. How can I do it, Bern? I feel like a hypocrite, even though I'm not a hypocrite. I love God with all my heart, and I try to serve him with everything I got, but I can't get it right. All the time, I just can't. And I'm trying with every flippin' thing I have. I'm not lazy. I'm not lackadaisical. I'm as intense as they come, and I can't get it right. And yet, somehow I think God used me today, right? So if I'm such a bum and you feel the same, then he can use you too, right? Just as Adam's bride was formed from one of his ribs taken from his side, so from Messiah's side, his bride was secured. We are secured as he shed his life's blood in untold agony for us. Eve was brought forth from the side of Adam, and the church was created from the wounded side of Yeshua. This is love. Hallelujah. Let's stand. I said to Bernadette, they have changed. If my mother was here, she'd tell you. She said, your mother said that every painting in the apartment was up because there was holes behind the painting that you punched. I said, but we have no holes in our walls, so I'm doing better. Right? If a person is 400 pounds and you look at them and you say they're still heavy, maybe they were 600. Maybe they were 410. They're going in the right direction. If you're with the Lord, like I believe you are, then you're going in the right direction. Just keep moving. You're going to get there. I'm convinced of one thing only, that he that started a good work in us is going to bring it to completion in Messiah Yeshua. Now may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. And may the Lord lift up his very countenance upon you and give you his peace in the name of the Prince of all peace, Yeshua. Yivarecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. Yo'er Adonai panav elecha v'hunecha. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. Shabbat shalom, I love you, and I'm available for a hug if you want it.